Before we move into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to connect this episode with what we've been exploring together over the past few weeks. Recently on the podcast, we've been talking about different forms of tension. We explored conflict in relationships, and then in the last episode, we turned inward into the quieter tension that happens within us when something feels off, when our lives no longer quite fit. And what I've come to see, both in my own life and in the work I do, is that often that inner tension doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's often shaped by moments where life has hit or impacted us, whether that's through loss or change, unexpected disruption. Experiences that shake our sense of identity, direction, or stability. And in those moments, many of us move into survival mode. Survival is a good thing. We cope, we carry on, and we do what we need to do to get through. But over time, that survival mode can begin to impact how we show up in our lives, in our relationships, and in our work. So that's where today's conversation comes in. Today, I'm joined by Debi Lynn, who brings a really powerful perspective on what happens when life hits and how women in particular navigate that space between survival and rebuilding. As you listen, I invite you to notice what resonates for you, not just in what Debi shares, but in your own experience. Where have you found yourself in survival mode? And what might it look like to begin moving back toward yourself from there? So let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to Magic in the Muck, a soul's compass for change. I'm Jennifer Nagel and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Today's guest I have with me, Debi Lynn, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with Debi. I want to say welcome, Debi.
Thank you, Jennifer, so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. And before we get into your roles and what it is you do, what's nurturing you these days and feeding your passion?
Well, basically what I am super excited about is just helping women, especially women in business, after life hits. Because what I find, and, so many people, I'm a business resilience strategist and a certified grief educator. And when I started this, it was happenstance, it was life hit me. And it took 3 decades for me to get back to who I was. And what I learned through that journey is how much women actually do suffer because we wear so many hats. And as women, we tend to become who the world expects us to be instead of who we need to be and who we want to be.
I thank you for that. You said it took navigating through the muck of your own journey and getting to where you are now. What did you need to muster within yourself, or how did you work through that for yourself?
Well, for me, to be honest, it was really tough. For such a long time, because, loss, number one, is tough. But to lose a child, number one, he was 4 months old and I was still in my 20s. And a week later, I lost my job. And, so I lost the income. I lost who I was as a mom and what I thought, my son would be. So I had all these expectations, right? That all of a sudden I'm looking at myself, asking myself, who am I now? Yeah. And I didn't know the questions to ask, nor did I really have the resources other than, going to church and talking to the women. And luckily there were 3 ladies, and one of which I call my best friend now. I call her my adoptive mom, because through thick and thin, she's been there. And I really feel that as a woman, we need to know that there is somebody that we can lean on through thick and thin, and we can talk about our muck. We can talk about the mess. We can cry. We can, we think, oh my gosh, I failed. When the truth of the matter is we didn't fail. We're broken in some ways, but in some ways we're just buried. And for me, I lived in survival mode more and longer than I should have, because I didn't have the resources. And so it took me a while to get out of that survival mode.
Well, and what you're saying is so important about, you said, finding other women or being in community. Healing, we really don't heal alone. We really heal in community with others. So getting out of survival mode, what's a part of your story? Because I hear, a lot of loss and loss of identity at a time in your life. What part didn't make sense at the time, but it's shaped who you've become now when you look back?
Well, when I was going through it, I think when we're in the midst of it, number one, we don't know the questions to ask. It's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But I also feel that what happens is our brain goes into survival mode. And one of the things that I learned is when it's in survival mode, it's great for crises because it works to slow us down so that we don't make the mistakes that we might make, right? So the brain is trying to protect us. So it's in protective mode. We're in survival mode, which works great in a crisis. But in business, that stalls, number one, your momentum. So it stalls your decisions, the way we lead, the way we think, the way we sell, and therefore affects our profit, right? The business starts falling. So it wasn't until I learned that we have 3 main operating patterns that women go through in survival mode. And learning those 3 patterns and recognizing them, then you can begin to heal.
What are those 3 patterns?
So the 3 patterns are the achiever, the carrier, and the giver. And so to go into that, so the achiever she is the one who she understands herself. She made decisions quickly. She sold. She launched. She was confident. She moved. Then when life hit, now all of a sudden she hesitates. She asks herself questions like, I know how to do this, but all of a sudden it seems so hard. I can't even send a simple email because I'm in survival mode.
So the doubt creeps in when in
Yes.
mode? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then the carrier carries it all. So she wants to take on everything. She takes on more responsibility. She wants to do it all. And she's of the thought that if I don't fix it, nobody will. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done. She tries to carry it all. Well, in business, trying to carry it all, number one, you don't grow. Because in business, we need space in order to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And the giver just wants to help people. So what she does is she gives more time. She's more flexible. She lowers her prices. She's just in a mode where I just want to help people. Well, what that does then is it lowers, number one, the standards of the business, but also you lose growth, you lose sales, and you lose profit. So once we determine which operating pattern you're in, then we go into the heart framework, because if we don't heal from the heart, then we can't heal the business, because we have to know who we are first and why we started the business to begin with, so we can bring back the passion, power, and profit.
I love, and just going back to, as you were describing the 3 different patterns that women tend to carry, I'm also hearing within those patterns a tremendous amount of resources within those patterns. And I'm wondering how those, taking the gems, the gems from each of the patterns, bringing them into that heart-based place. Like just like someone who carries it all. Yeah, if we're carrying all of it, that's too much. But there's also qualities that could be useful, but to a lesser degree.
Yeah. So, before, if you think about this in the achiever, for instance, before the life hit, you moved, you took action, you made decisions quickly, you trusted your instincts. But when life hit, something changed. And so now your ideas, they're put to the side. You're not trusting your instincts. And so in order to get to the part where we're healing, number one, we have to understand what we're doing, right? And I think what happens, especially when a woman's in the midst of it, are you an achiever? Are you a carrier? Are you a giver? Each and every one of those have good and bad aspects, right? And we also have the strength in each one, because when the shift happens, especially, like in any of them, then, for instance, the carrier, after they've slowed down and you start realizing, okay, why am I slowing down? Why am I not making the decisions? Because you didn't leave the space for the leadership. So once we get control back, then we get back to the leadership, and then that control fills that void. And now that carrier is getting the strength back. And so she can start healing. She can start realizing who she is.
Well, I love, getting the strength back, like getting reconnected with the resources that we already had before the life event, before the stress. I do a lot of teaching the satir model, but when we look at that, we're all congruent. We all have the ability and the resources that we need for healing and growth. And then we use coping only when under stress. So these 3, like the carrier, the achiever, and what was the third one again? The
giver.
The giver. Yeah. I should have that one. Yeah. But when it becomes, when we're under stress or when life hits us, as you say, that's when these coping patterns come into play.
Yeah. And, when we are in those patterns, sometimes we don't recognize it. And so one of the things that I utilize is the heart method, which is heal, embrace, awaken, reclaim, and transform.
Oh, say that again. I want to make sure I get that. And I want to make sure the listeners get that too. So let's say it slowly so we can write notes.
So the heart method is the path back to leadership and profit. And the heart, the H is heal. E is embrace. A is awaken. R is reclaim. And T is transform. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole process, but I'll give you just a brief gist of the method and how it's so important, especially when we're in the operating pattern. Heal is we slow down and we allow the space for healing. So we realize now in our heart, we have to heal. And we have it within ourselves. The brain is in survival mode and it is protecting us. And when we slow down and we start from the heart, why did I start this business? What is my passion? What is my why? And we can start reminding ourselves. Then that's where we start. The healing begins with ourselves, with our heart. And E is when we accept what happened, even though we don't like it, and life is lifing, and we realize it's not a failure, but now we must embrace that story. In that story, we can either have it hurt us, or we can use it as an opportunity to grow and lean into who we are now becoming, because we have changed. And then awaken is we're seeing those patterns clearly. We understand because we've started to heal. And once we understand the patterns, then we've now embraced our confidence and we have more clarity. At that point, we can reclaim. And that's when we, as women, we take back our voice. We take back our decisions and our leadership. And then T is transform, where the confidence has returned, the business is growing again, and momentum is back.
Lovely. So heal, embrace,
awaken,
reclaim our voice, right? And then
reclaim our voice and
transform. Beautiful. I love that acronym. It really sums it all up beautifully, doesn't it?
It does.
How do you embrace this method for yourself, even now?
Well, one of the things that I do and that I ask my women to do is I journal, but I also, the first thing that I do is write down one joyous thing every day and put it in a jar. And at the end of the month, take a look at that. And it's amazing. And you do it even with your feelings. If you're feeling sad or guilty or angry or sad, it doesn't matter. You still have one joyous moment or something that brings you joy that day, no matter what.
A joy jar.
A joy jar.
Yeah, I love that because that really does it. It feeds the jar. It feeds the joy bank account. What a wonderful way to just really anchor in that every day has joyful moments, those magical moments, even when you're in the muck of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, and especially in today's society. And what I found is even looking back, let's say you look in a month, or you can look in a couple months. But what I found is from the beginning to when you get into it, it's amazing how it changes what you write down. Mm-hmm. It's incredible.
So we should try this, shouldn't we? That's a should thing. It's not a should thing. It's an invitation. It's an invitation.
Yes.
To do this.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious, this podcast is called Magic in the Muck. What does finding magic in the muck mean to you? Especially in the context of who you are in your own life and how you work with others.
I would sum it up in 2 words. I matter.
Beautiful. I matter. Yeah, no matter what. No matter what. Yeah. So I realize that our conversation is coming to a close already, but any final words you'd like our listeners to be left with for now?
I would just say, honestly, get yourself a sticky and put I matter on your mirror and look at that every day and remind yourself that you do matter.
Wonderful. And how can listeners find you if they'd like to be in touch?
I do have a free gift. You can go to empowerherbonus.com, and it's a heart-led bounce back reset. Or you can find me at heartledawakening.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Wonderful.
Debi Lynn TX.
Say that again, Debi Lynn.
Debi Lynn TX.
Okay. I'm going to make sure that all those links go in the show notes so that they can just click on the link and find you that way as well. And thank you so much for this conversation. It was really meaningful.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. It was such an honor to be with you. And I hope that the listeners find joy in every day.
Lovely. And heart.
Yes.
We're going to, that's one that's going to stick with me too, with the heart acronym. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Before we close, I want to leave you with this. If you found yourself just getting through, holding things together, doing what needed to be done to survive, there's nothing wrong with you. You adapted to what life asked of you. And maybe now, something in you is beginning to shift. A quiet readiness, a sense that you don't want to just get through anymore. You want to feel like yourself again. And that doesn't happen all at once. It begins in small moments of remembering what matters, remembering what feels true, and remembering who you are beneath everything that you've had to carry. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with who you've always been. And sometimes the magic in the muck isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about discovering what's still alive within you. Thank you for being here. Until next time. Thank you for being here with me on Magic in the Muck. If today stirred something in you and you're ready to walk this path more deeply, I invite you to join the Soul Compass Circle, a journey of reflection, connection, and soul-aligned living. You don't have to do this alone. Just visit the link in the show notes to step into the circle. I look forward to meeting you there.
I'm Michelle Abraham, founder of the High Vibe Podcast Network, and we're honored to have Jennifer Nagel's show Magic in the Muck as part of our network family. For more inspiring shows like this one, visit highvibepodcastnetwork.com, and don't forget to grab your free gifts from our hosts in the gift fold. Stay high vibe and keep sharing your light.